There have been some significant developments in the UAW strike, with the union expanding its walkout to Ford's largest plant, and now Stellantis could be in the hot seat after a formal meeting this morning.
That's right, and this comes ahead of another announcement, which is happening tomorrow from UAW President Shawn Fain, which could include additional plants going on strike.
Joining us now to break it all down is John McElroy, an auto analyst with Autoline Detroit. Thanks for joining us tonight, John.
You're welcome. Thanks.
So we know that Ford had a call today where they talked in detail about how important this Kentucky plant is to the company. They also called it grossly irresponsible for the union to shut it down. What kind of impact do you think a surprise escalation like this could have on those negotiations?
Well, the ripple effect of the strike is going to be significant with the Ford Kentucky plant. Ford's identified, I think, 13 other plants that would be affected by it, including 2 other assembly plants that will be affected. It's talking about thousands of people getting laid off. Ford says that 30% of its suppliers have had to lay off workers because of the strikes, meaning that it's starting to impact workers who have nothing to do with the UAW, although they are in the automotive industry, obviously. So this is Ford's way of starting to put pressure on the union, especially with public opinion, saying, hey, look, this strike is starting to hurt the rest of the U.S. economy, not just the Ford Motor Company.
And John, a senior Ford executive also said today that the company is at its limit for what it can offer as far as raises and benefits. What do you read into that? Is that a legitimate statement of where they're at, or is it another bargaining tactic?
Well, you know, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't have the facts and figures that they're talking about at the negotiating table in front of me. But there's no question that the automakers have provided significant concessions to the union. Concessions that I'm frankly surprised that they've gone along with. It looks like Shawn Fain believes that he can get even more out of them. He's ramping up the pressure like this Ford strike. Who knows what he'll announce tomorrow, but he's really applying extreme pressure on them right now, and we'll see how much of it they can take.
Yeah, quite a bit of pressure, and you know, we were surprised with that last announcement that there were not calls for more strikes at that time. Like you said, we don't know what he's going to say, but do you have any thoughts on what he could possibly be saying to us tomorrow?
Well, you know, he could obviously ramp up the pressure even more, presumably, you know, closing down plants at Stellantis and General Motors. But the one thing about Shawn Fain and the way that he's been communicating is you don't know where he's going. That's part of his strategy, is if you think he's going to do one thing, he does another. If you think he's going to do it at this time, he does it at that time. So who knows what he's going to come up with tomorrow. He may decide not to expand the strike, as he did not last Friday. You know, there was almost a little bit of a ceasefire going on there. Obviously, the union's broken that ceasefire now. We'll see if it continues to ramp up the pressure, or, like I said, whether Shawn does something totally different than what he's done before.
It seems like there's widespread support, at least on the part of union members, for Union President Shawn Fain. What do you think about the executives themselves? Do you think they run any risk here in not coming to an agreement?
Well, the only risk that they run is that it could financially hurt the companies as these plants shut down and they're not building vehicles. That's income that's not coming into the company. It's going to hurt them financially. What they're worried about, though, is conceding things to the union that will hurt them down the road and leave them financially uncompetitive with all the other foreign automakers who build millions of cars and trucks in America with well over 100,000 non-union American workers. That's their big concern. So, you know, clearly what would be in the interest of the Detroit-based automakers is to come out with some sort of resolution quickly that does not leave them at a severe competitive disadvantage.
Yeah, we're seeing some of those implications now of this standoff that is still going strong. Should this continue, what kind of impact do you think this could have on the industry as a whole?
Well, you know, the big worry that everyone's had all along is with smaller suppliers, what they call tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers. They're literally the suppliers to the suppliers. And a lot of them are family owned. They've been enormously financially distressed because of all the COVID shutdowns and then the chip shortage. And, you know, this industry has built about 8 million fewer vehicles than it would have normally over the last 3 years. So they were hurting just because of that. This this strike could be the straw that breaks the camel's back and pushes them out of business, so that even when you sign a contract and try to get back to work, the industry cannot ramp back up again. That's the real danger.
Absolutely. All right, John, thank you so much for your time today. This is John McElroy, auto analyst with Autoline Detroit. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks.